Hello out there, and welcome to the No Shit Cast. I'm your host, Matt Fraser. 99. Count them, 99 big, fat, freaking episodes. That's a big freaking deal, man. I mean, we've done 99 of these things, right?
Well, I haven't been on all of them, so it's been a little less for me.
My co-host for
You've done 99.
My co-host for this evening's festivities, none other than the Gray Wizard of Historical Knowledge himself, Mr. Eric Smith. How are you tonight, Mr. Smith?
Like a man who likes pickles on pizza.
Is that right?
I did. I liked it.
You did that. I saw that this morning, or what was it? It was lunchtime, right? You took a picture. You created a...
I did not create that. You can actually order that there.
Well, no, I guess what I'm saying is that you made the you took a picture of food and put it on social media.
Yeah, that
you
sucks.
did one of those things.
I shouldn't have done that. I'll admit that I do go astray sometimes and fall victim to my herbis, but
I'm shocked, man. I mean, I didn't know we were there. Are we officially in hipster status now? Does that qualify you into that elite group of?
I think that eating pickles on pizza qualifies me for many things.
And then you took pictures of it.
I did,
and you put it on Facebook.
I did, and had discussions with people about it. In fact,
I saw that there were dad puns in that as well. That something about getting over it or something to that effect.
Oh, yeah, deal with it.
Deal with it.
Yeah,
deal,
I did have deal with it.
Like as in dill pickle, deal with it.
Yeah.
You know what I did? Well, I took off and had to fly down to Orlando to go work on a pH system, right?
Yeah.
So on the flight back, I haven't told you about this. I was waiting to tell you about this on the show. So I'm flying back, and this freaking job, man, was like, I never know what I'm getting into a lot of times on these jobs, okay? But I can take a lot. Sometimes I lose my shit. This was one of the times when I did not lose my shit, right? But anyway, I get down there, and generally, I'm working in this beverage company, in this beverage facility, and I think I'm going to walk in. The place is at least going to be air conditioned or something. No, this building's outside. Of course, all buildings are outside, okay? But I mean, it's detached from the main facility.
Detached from the air conditioning and the
it's detached
of the
from
main facility.
all of the air handling systems, and it's literally about the size. It's maybe a 15 by 15 building, cinder block building, right? And all the doors are open, and it's Florida, and it's 93 degrees. So when I finished up that. I ran to the airport to get my flight. I went back to the facility just to make sure everything's working because I did a conversion and banged it out this past weekend. And then, so of course, I'm soaking wet. I've sweated through my clothes. Well, I was smart this time, and I said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw a change of clothes in my laptop bag. So when I check my bag, I'll get through security. I'll run in the bathroom. I'll change my clothes. Life's good. Mm-hmm. Ready to go. So I throw in it's summer, right? So I throw in a pair of shorts and all this kind of stuff. Get past security, take off my sopping wet clothing that I've sweated in from working outside, and swap out to a pair of like cargo shorts, typical dad shit, t-shirt, Get on the plane and watching my iPad. We're flying through the air, and I always do this ceremonial thing when I'm flying. I get a Bloody Mary. Mm-hmm. Okay. I got my Bloody Mary. It's got my Twizzle stick in it. I just squished my lime. Okay. My iPad goes to slide a little bit. I go to reach across my lap to grab my iPad. I hit the swizzle stick. I take the entire Bloody Mary and flip it into my lap.
Oh, man.
Ice, vodka. It's now
all in the wrong place.
And I'm sitting here, and my lap is like a bowl of Bloody Mary.
You're sitting in your Plan B right now, and it's just went to shit. Like,
this is right after the drink service. So we've been in the air, I don't know, 20 minutes. And now I've got to get up. This poor couple next to me, thank God, she was like a mom, obviously. She had like wet wipes and stuff. She, oh my God. So I ended up getting as much of it sopped up as I can. And then I have to take the clothes, the wet, fucking sweaty clothes out of my laptop bag now, go to the bathroom with a big red stain in my crotch. I got to do the walk of shame down through the airplane, right? Going, yes, I'm that fucking idiot. That's me, ladies and gentlemen. I did it.
And then waft your way back.
Well, it wouldn't have been so bad. Okay, but here's it. I stood up. Now everybody's facing the front of the plane. So if I'm walking forwards, I figured this out real quick. At least if I'm walking forwards, I'll go to the bathroom in the front of the plane, and I'm walking forward, so nobody will really see this, and I'll just kind of keep my change of clothes in front of me, right?
Sure.
No big deal. I get up there. Nope. It's occupied. So I'd have to stand here with a dripping wet crotch, or I got to now turn around and walk the entire length of the plane.
The entire length of the walk of shame back to the rear restroom.
Because I was like over the wing. So I went forward thinking nobody would see me. All I actually did was made it so now the entire plane could see that I'm the dumbass that just spilled his drink in his lap.
Yeah, well, it happens. Oh, shoot, man.
So that was my trip.
And so I guess you're glad you're not going on the other couple of trips you thought you were going on.
What are you going to do? It was fun, you know. It's like, hey, it was an event. It happened. I had to make, you know, I had to be embarrassed, and I had to make light of it. And in the end of it all, you know, it ended up being kind of this funny story. So I don't know. It doesn't bother me. I just think it's, you know, this is me now, right? This is how.
This is the life I lead now.
It just is, man. It just is. All right, you want to do some articles, brother?
Article.
Or do you got any anecdotes or anything?
If I do, I'll figure it out in the.
I'm sure you will.
Interbellum, yeah.
You never disappoint that way.
Oh, good.
Ever. Never.
It'll be tonight.
But there's a first time for
yeah, I'll be like, oh, I gotta go to
bed. This comes from IFL Science. 125,000-year-old bone engravings may be oldest ever example of Denisovan art. Now, the Denisovans, they're important because...
I believe they were one of the three races, like Neanderthal, Homo sapiens, and those guys that were roughly in the same time period at one point in all of their evolution. So they share the globe with us, like the Neanderthals.
Okay. All right.
And of course, there's a lot of Neanderthal cave art that we've discovered, maybe not so much of this particular branch of species.
Okay. It says 2 animal bone fragments decorated with abstract engravings and dating to 105,000 to 125,000 years ago have been unearthed in China. The etchings on one of these bones are filled with ochre, providing the first ever evidence that ochrid engravings were produced for symbolic purposes by late Pleistocene hominins in East Asia. While we currently don't know for sure, the researchers believe the archaic hominins behind the artwork were Denisovan. The bones were found in Linjing in North China's Henan province in the same rock layer that 2 ancient hominin skull fragments were previously found, and it's still not known which archaic human species these bones belong to, but many argue they are Denisovan.
So they're not really sure, are they?
Mm-hmm. It says, quote, a growing body of genetic evidence indicates that Denisovans, and to a lesser extent Neanderthals, occupied most of East Asia before the arrival of modern humans. That's why they're so important.
Yeah.
So is this missing link shit here?
No, it's just that they're talking about the 3 different species of humans that existed at the same time.
Okay.
While they're saying that these Neanderthals and, what's the other word? Denevians?
Well, no, what do they call them? There was a name, Pleistocene.
Oh, no, that's the period.
Oh.
It's the other name up there, the Denevian or whatever.
We have Neanderthals and Denisovans.
Denisovans, yes, this is what I forgot. The Denisovans and the Neanderthals and the Homo sapiens all existed in the same time period at one point in their evolutionary history. And while that's saying that the Denisovans and Neanderthals were in this particular area in China before Homo sapiens moved in. So they had basically been in that area doing the shit that they do before humans came in. And of course, you know, we've discovered for sure that Neanderthals and humans have interbred, but I don't know if we have any genetic evidence of
this species of yeah, that's the thing, right? We think of like this evolutionary system as like this straight line, but it really isn't, is it? It's got different bisecting branches that go in and out of.
Yeah, that's what we're starting to find, at least with DNA studies.
So everybody was just sort of doing it with everybody, if you could.
They were. I mean, it's kind of no different than saying that you can have different breeds of dogs doing it, right? And you end up with some combination of whatever those two dogs were.
So as long as they're
in the same species,
and the species lines up enough, or the DNA sequence lines up enough to not reject it entirely, you can have intermingling of species.
Yeah, and we've seen this in nature before. I think in coyotes and in crows, I believe. We have seen species merge and separate.
Okay. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Professor Francesco De Erico, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, of the University of Bordeaux, told IFL Science, quote, "The skull found at Linjing in the same layer in which the engravings were found is an archaic hominin with no Neanderthal features. The chances are high that he or she is a Denisovan." So now So this is like something that was speculated about, but now they're starting to find actual sort of skeletons and things that substantiate that there's this another period of
another species. So they're using paleontology, which is basically the study of, you're just looking at bones and you're comparing features of bones, and if the features of a bone fit a certain template or parameter, then they fall within a certain species. And so what they're doing is they're looking at these skulls and they're measuring like how wide it is, and how long it is, and how thick it is, and all this, and they're saying, well, it doesn't really fit Neanderthal skulls, and it was a time before Homo sapiens moved in. So by process of elimination, we are going to say that these are probably bones of this other species that we've recently, because they didn't even know about these species until fairly recently.
That's what it's saying here, right? It says the Denisovans were fellow members of the genus Homo, a species Homo.
Yep.
Damn homos, right? And were only discovered in 2010.
Yeah, man, it wasn't that long ago,
So this is a big deal.
Yeah, this is maybe some of the first bone and fragments of that they found.
A bone fragment found in Siberia. A fragment.
Yeah.
Only known from a handful of bone and tooth fragments, we still know very little about these mysterious hominins. However, we do know that they mated with our ancestors. Yep. And signs of this interbreeding can be seen in the people today.
Yeah, yeah.
So they see like the echoes of it. Mm-hmm. So this sort of attaches it to something now that makes that part of it make sense.
Yeah, yeah, because we have parts of them in us still, just like I have so much parts of Neanderthal in me, that didn't get there in any other way but interbreeding. So
that's really cool. It says, if the artwork was created by this group of hominins, it is the oldest example of Denisovan art to date. Ancient jewelry has previously been attributed to the Denisovans, but it dates back to just 40,000 years. It's often assumed that Homo sapiens, the species to which we belong, were more cognitively advanced than other archaic humans that lived thousands of years ago. However, if the newly discovered bones were decorated by Denisovans, it would mean that these ancient humans had brains complex enough to use abstract designs to display information. The researchers are certain that the etchings were created intentionally, but we don't know what information they represent.
Which seems to be a hallmark of Homo species, whether it's Neanderthal, Homo sapiens, or these ones I can't keep. What's the Denisovans. Either way, they all produce art. They all produce metaphoric, abstract images. They produce jewelry. Probably they will discover that they made music and stuff. So
musical instruments.
Yeah, just like Neanderthals did. Yeah.
I just saw this the other day. My wife was flipping through the channels. Megan Fox is the actress's name.
I don't.
She was in, and I'm hoping I'm saying the name. I'm pretty certain it's her. She was in the Transformers movie with Shia LaBeouf. She was the hot chick in the Transformers movie.
Kind of remember that.
Anyway, she's got like this show where she runs around following up, or these kinds of topics like ancient hominins and. You just never guess it. Yeah. So she's like this smoke show, hot actress. And then you see her like standing next to scientists and they're talking about all this. So apparently I'd heard 2 stories about her. I'd heard that number one, she was a complete dipshit. It was really difficult to work with because she was so like dense. And then I heard somebody else actually later say that's absolutely not true about her. She's extremely well read. She's like really into different type of archaic topics and stuff. And now she's got this show. It was either on History or Discovery or one of them. I don't know if it lasted or not, but it's like a full season where she's goes around. She's talking about ancient cultures and the new archaeological evidence.
That's cool.
I'm like, shit, man. Who knew?
Yeah. I didn't either. I'd heard that same thing, that she was difficult to work with, because I heard that in the later Transformer movies they got somebody else to replace her because of that. But it could just be one of those situations where she fits in with a different caliber of people or something.
Yeah, maybe it's not her.
Right.
Maybe it's Hollywood.
It could be.
Oh, yeah. It'd be interesting to find out that she's like Hedy Lamarr. She's like this super genius. That is an outcast because she couldn't talk to him because she was like, I can't even talk to you people,
suck.
So not only am I, drop dead gorgeous, but my IQ is so high I can't even associate with you ignorant fucks.
I can't do a Transformer movie. I'm too smart.
You just pretend to be other people anyway. This comes from, who's this come from? Futurism. Scientists accidentally created a liquid magnet.
Whoops.
I thought we had ferrous liquids like, isn't mercury magnetic? I don't know. I can't remember now. I think it is.
I think so, too.
I think mercury's magnetic, which would mean it's ferrous. Scientists created a metallic liquid capable of maintaining a magnetic field for the first time in history.
Maybe that's what it is. Oh.
And they did it entirely by accident. University of Massachusetts Amherst engineers, if you're from Massachusetts, you know why that's funny, were working on 3D printing liquids when they discovered that the droplets of iron, oil, and water were able to maintain a magnetic field. The researchers told Live Science, a first for any liquid. Yeah, researchers plan to launch new studies to sort out why droplets maintained a magnetic field. They told Live Science once they sort out how, they'll get. They don't know how they did it yet.
And you know what we're going to do now? We're going to figure out why this happened.
Yeah,
stop everything else.
It's repeatable though, so there's a methodology. They'll get to work figuring out what to do with these new wet magnets. So
I'm sure there's something awesome they can do with them.
They created them, but they don't know what to fucking do with them. So, hey, world announcement. We now have liquid magnets. Oh, that one didn't come up. What happened there?
Maybe it will help with liquid coolant systems. Maybe they can propagate electricity and cool at the same time.
I don't know if I'm going to cover that. I don't know if I even want to bring that one up. It just was on my list. I don't pre-qualify these, man. I don't. This comes from physicsandastronomy.com. Magnetic rope observed for the first time between Saturn and the sun. Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like electric universe type.
Right?
Interest. Yeah.
When the sun's magnetic field hits the Earth's magnetic field, a complex process occurs called magnetic reconnection. And because of that, the shape of magnetic fields changes into a helical one. For the first time ever now, it happened that scientists have observed a twisted magnetic field structure at Saturn using instrumentation built at UCL and Imperial College. Ooh. Looks like a big thing of spaghetti, doesn't it?
Well, isn't that what Sherfu had said, that in earlier times these things are visibly connected?
Yeah, and because they were in such an excited state, they were visible with the naked eye.
Yeah. Sounds really familiar.
I know.
I'm just saying. I heard him say something like that.
You're going down the rabbit hole, man. That's the problem with this shit.
Well,
yeah, that's what I told Sherfu, man. I mean, once you start seeing this stuff, you start seeing it everywhere. It's
maybe there's a reason why.
Hopefully we're doing like interviews with people that someday are going to be like, hey, these are some of the first interviews with these people that came up with this theory, and now it's accepted in the mainstream and all that kind of stuff. It'd be really neat.
That would be nice.
I hope. I think so. It's really neat.
I see you're starting to get the same kind of advertisements I do.
Well, you know how it is.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's proof positive that your efforts have yielded good results.
The algorithm's working, right?
Yeah.
These twisted helically structured magnetic fields are called flux ropes, or, quote, flux transfer events, FTEs.
Flux transfer events.
The circumstances that allow FTEs to be created at a planet degenerate with distance from the sun. This phenomenon has also been observed at Earth and even more commonly at Mercury.
Sounds like something that you would be accused of by Section 31 in Star Trek.
Flux transfer events.
Yeah, you're in trouble.
Sure does. Like you're definitely going to the brig for if you orchestrate a flux transfer event. I would think.
Yeah.
You know, vitamin pills and water, bread and water.
Yeah, pills and water.
You know, the Navy. Even when I was in the Navy, they still did bread and water.
Did they?
They put you in a brig on
that
bread and water.
Doesn't sound very fun.
And you weren't allowed to. I had a buddy that I was in the shop with. This guy you never wanted to play Trivial Pursuit with him because he had like all of them memorized. And when it came out it was because he was in the brig. And so they wouldn't give them the Trivial Pursuit game because they were in the brig. You're bad sailors. But they would give them the box of cards and they would just sit around and quiz each other all day to keep each other. So it kept them shut up.
Sure.
You know?
Keep your mind busy.
So he spent so much time in the brig that he memorized like the standard Trivial Pursuit deck.
That's funny.
Anyway, I don't know where it came from. Researchers have been made to find an FTE with the help of NASA's Cassini spacecraft.
Cassini.
Cassini? That works. Cassini. The observation of this phenomenon at Saturn has been more successful than expected. Cassini spacecraft is in orbit around Saturn and working on since 2004, and after the collection of data of many years, Cassini has observed the first FTE at Saturn. The observed magnetic signature was successfully compared to that of the model to show that Cassini indeed observed a flux rope at this giant magnetosphere, and it also assessed that the flux rope could be up to 8,300 kilometers wide.
Wow.
We really need to start listening to some of the theories and stuff these guys from the EU community have, I think. Right? I mean, like, that's pretty crazy that this was all predicted by them.
Pretty interesting.
And it's all a lot of this stuff starting to vet out.
It's good times to live in to see how it transfers. Transfers down into the books, the physics books of college. I mean, 7 years ago, I was going on and on about OR, and last year they got new books in for what was it? It was anthropology book, and there was a psychology book. And both of them had one chapter on quantum consciousness.
Wow.
Yeah, just one small chapter, but
it's there.
Yeah, it's there.
These are college textbooks you're talking about?
Yeah, they came in through the library where I worked at. And the anthropology/sociology teacher there was getting them, and I marked the parts in the books so that when she inevitably got them, because I knew that they were going to go to her, right?
Yeah.
If anybody that, I'm like, hey, I marked that part for you. Remember I was talking about that a few years ago.
Man, if you go back, I don't want to brag, but it's because a lot of these, this isn't me, a lot of these topics especially came from you, but if you go back and in our show and look at the titles of the shows we've done and compare it to how far ahead of some of these topics we were talking about that are now being talked about. Like OR is a much bigger thing now than when we were talking about it way back then. And I've seen these guys starting to turn up now. Like,
yeah, people thought I was crazy 7 years ago.
Yeah, and now it's a thing. Yeah, and yes, to your point. Yeah, I mean, you were even further ahead. I'm talking a year ago for us on the show. You were
yeah.
7 years ago. You were starting to look into this stuff. You're an interesting dude, man. That's why I got you on the show.
I think it was the documentary.
If you leave that cap alone,
I know, but it's the second time I've dropped it. That's the documentary DMT, the spirit molecule.
Yeah.
I think that's actually where I first heard about that.
That's a Rogan. He's in that. Joe Rogan's in
Is
that.
he?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know who he was then.
Yeah, he has
Speaking
hair.
of-
He had hair in the documentary.
Did he?
Yeah,
Okay.
and if you see him now, he doesn't. He's bald. He shaves his head, but he had like really short hair, but he at least had hair.
Well, I think
that documentary.
Stuart Hammerhoff is on there, and he was talking about it. He's the guy that came up with the theory, and it's like
Right.
it's not a really big part or anything, but
No.
I was like absolutely amazed with it, and just
Well,
kinda
later
stuck with it.
Hammerhoff was on. I think it's Stuart Hammerhoff was on Joe Rogan's podcast
Oh yeah, I
talking
doubt it.
about this stuff.
He was on a TED Talk too.
Yeah.
And then
I sent that to Nikolay Zhenkov, our that has the Orco our
Mm-hmm.
web Facebook group, and that was like a big deal. It was like, ooh, look,
That's
You
the
know?
next one up for remastering too.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You're working on that next.
Well,
yeah,
yeah.
Tell us. I mean, before we head off down in a. But yeah, you've been going out and remastering some of our early shows, folks. Eric, how would we describe those? Shoestring budget? I mean, how would you?
Oh, just like it's like if you went to a yard sale and you happened to find a microphone and a stand that was used for a lamp and
Right.
like a tape recorder, and like you bought all that stuff and
And
went
this
home
is-
and made a podcast.
Listen, this is by no means any kind of implication upon Eric's abilities with mastering. The problem is that your world was entirely digital. You had never actually done anything with analog instrumentation of any kind. You'd always done everything digitally.
Yeah.
So there was this whole side of the fence that you didn't really have a whole lot of experience with, man, when we started this.
Yeah. I'd never mic'd anything ever, and I'd never used an analog mixer.
It's kind of wild, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I never had any of that.
So you've been going back and taking these. He's got software and stuff.
I got software.
And you've been taking these and putting these back through this like really high end.
Isotope software, and mostly it's all isotope.
And cleaning the shows up and rebalancing them so that you can listen to them and one person isn't super loud and the other person's super quiet.
Yeah. Basically, been taking them through RX-7 Advanced by Isotope, which is an audio restoration software, and the main things I guess that I'm doing with that is I'm taking out reverb, like room reverb, so that the voices are drier, and then taking out plosives and clicks, anything like that, because I mean, there was a lot of like weird transients and stuff where we were banging stuff or hitting the mic, or we were just moving around a lot, and we've learned how to not be so most of us have learned how to not be so fidgety. I still have to work it out before I start.
I scold you constantly.
Yeah, you have to, because I'll start tapping. But so we take on all that out with RX-7 Advanced, and then once it's cleaned up, I'll usually put it into Reaper, which is a digital audio workstation, and then edit it in any way that it needs to be edited. It like if there's whatever needs to be cut out, I'll cut it out. If nothing needs to be cut out, I don't. I cut a little bit out of one and nothing out of the next one.
Yeah.
And then I will put it through Neutron 2 Advanced, which is a mixing tool, and then that's generally where I will do the EQing.
Yeah.
Which for most of those, I rolled a lot off the high end. Because there was a lot of hiss and feedback, and a lot of that was just
room dynamics,
reflection
and all that
of
kind
echo
of
and
stuff.
stuff. Yeah, that we didn't have like dampening devices like we do now, and so I take all that stuff out, and then sometimes I roll off the low end if it needs it, just depending, and maybe do something like stereoize it in Neutron and like widen the stereo signal part of it, and EQ a little of the voice
Right.
sort of thing. And then I'll take it over and put it in isotope ozone 7 advanced and do a final mastering process where you're getting a lot of the compressions and the limiters, and so that things sound even and everyone's talking at the same level. And
well, here's something that really kind of came out of this. It was really interesting. Was that it?
See, it's really boring, actually.
No, well, what was really cool was by redoing those, it's almost like you recreated an entire podcast. So in a sense, you created an entire podcast because some of them were almost unlistenable.
Yeah, we'd had a lot of complaints.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing was the information was still so good that they went through the hassle.
It was you could derive it still and get something decent out of it.
Yeah.
So don't if you're doing the podcasting thing, folks, man, make sure you hang on to that shit.
Yeah, hang on to your source files.
Because you'd be amazed what might happen later down the road. And
record in WAV too. I mean, honestly, if you can record in 32-bit, 48 kilohertz, or you could, that would be great because. Then you can do.
Well, then you have it. It's so the resolution's so high, everything is just.
Well, then when you do all that stuff I'm talking about that I do with it,
you end up with something
better.
It's worth listening to at the back end instead of just
because you can
trash.
dither it down to 16-bit, and then you can then take it to an MP3, and by the time it gets to an MP3 or whatever, it sounds a lot better.
I this morning I was talking to Sherfu. And this dude, like I said, who sometimes I think is the show's unofficial talent agent for finding. Yeah. He opened the floodgates on us today of people that have been contacted and are extremely interested in coming on and being on the show for interviews and such. Artists, physicists. I mean, I haven't even begun to get my mind around. I got to find some way to quantify all this and get back to all these folks that he's introduced me to just today alone. But there are some really, really cool shows that are coming up. So big shout out and thanks again to Ramon Cariaga, Shifu, our buddy, for lining this up. He's a big cheerleader for what we do.
I've only got to talk with him once.
But I mean, the guy is constantly feeding us. Sort of helping us find people to talk to and stuff. He loves what we do here, so he's a big cheerleader for us, and he reaches out to people and he's like, "Hey, you should come talk to these guys, man. They're great. You'll love it." And they do, and they're like, "Oh, okay." So again, I just wanted to make sure I give him a big shout out, and we talk about him all the time because he's on the show a lot too for that reason.
Yeah,
the guy is just
3 or 4 times or more.
Oh God, I can't. I don't know. I can't. I think it's been at least. But I talk to him so much now. Like I've built this friendship with him outside of the show for sure, where we message back and forth and stuff on social media and things. But he's just on so often. I don't remember. It's like he's been on for like the last 7 months. It seems like he's just been on either talking to me or on the show or both or lining people up.
That's great. I like the diversity. That's what I like. I like the diversity.
It's great. I really appreciate, when we find, people that are really super interesting, what I'm finding out is that they tend to know people that are also super freaking interesting.
Yeah,
and the show has grown organically that way. Through association, like so-and-so knows so-and-so knows so-and-so. And a lot of the guests that have been on here have been through that kind of association. It's really neat. I don't know.
In my head...
So thanks, Sherfu. I really appreciate it, man.
In my head, it's just you and me sitting in a room.
It's weird, isn't it?
And sometimes there's a disembodied voice.
Somebody was messaging me from him today, and we were talking about the show dynamics, and it was like, this is... downloaded thousands of times. It's been downloaded in like 31 countries or some shit. I can't remember what it is. It's something ridiculous. And but it's just still you and me sitting in a room with better microphones, better mixer. Thanks, Kenny. At Thought Dump again. Better, equipment, but it's still just you and me sitting in a room doing this, man. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
This one comes from
no one can stop us.
We are on a roll. Futurism.com. City killer asteroid whizzes past Earth almost undetected.
Heard about that.
Almost undetected,
except for this large article.
A space rock that could have leveled an entire city just hurled right past Earth. coming within 6 Earth diameters of smashing into our home planet. Astronomers didn't spot the city-killer asteroid, according to the Washington Post, until days before it careened close to Earth than the moon at about 61 times the speed of a commercial jet. NASA's data suggests the asteroid is about 100 meters wide. To put that into perspective, the massive meteor strike above Chelyabinsk, Russia, that's the one that exploded in the atmosphere, right? In 2013 was only 20 meters across and exploded with more energy than a nuclear weapon.
No, that would be Tunguska, where it exploded. The interesting thing about this is that they say that the ones that they're going to miss are going to be the ones that are comets coming from the Oort cloud.
Okay.
Because it can come from any direction. But most of the asteroids like this are supposed to come from the asteroid belt, which lies between Mars and Jupiter, right? A lot closer. So they're able to keep track of them, supposedly, and they're not supposed to slip past as easily. So that's what's weird about this one slipping past, I guess.
This says, in other words, the Earth just avoided a disaster of bonkers proportions. Not okay. The space rock is big enough to be a city killer asteroid, a nickname given to space rocks that pass Earth this closely, according to Alan Duffy, lead scientist at the Royal Institution of Australia, who spoke with the Post. Quote, "It should worry us all, quite frankly," said Duffy. "It's not a Hollywood movie. It is a clear and present danger. It would have gone off like a very large nuclear weapon."
Did he just say it wasn't a Hollywood movie and then reference the title of a Hollywood movie?
He certainly did.
Okay,
yeah. A good one. A clear and present danger is a good movie. Yeah, it's based on a Tom Clancy book. Book's better. Always.
Sure. Yeah.
A lot more context, but whatever. Quote, "It's probably the largest asteroid to pass this close to the Earth in quite a number of years," Michael Brown, a Melbourne-based observational astronomer, told the Post. "It snuck up on us pretty quickly."
Oh, yeah.
We have that. Sneaky asteroids, man. Yeah. So why wasn't it spotted earlier?
Why?
That's the question. That's likely to do with its unusual orbit that had it hurtling past Mars and Venus at much higher than average velocity. Only 3 days earlier, the asteroid was 1,000 times fainter and harder to spot from Earth.
So the problem is it's quick. It's moving fast. That's why it snuck up on us. It's moving really quick.
That's a little worrisome, man. I mean, I guess there's no way that you can kind of look at the entire sky and say, "Where's the bullets at?" I mean, maybe there is.
Right.
It'd be too hard.
Right, and that's what's the problem with this one. Just because it was moving quick, it made it difficult for them to detect with the instruments they're using currently, because the majority aren't moving at that speed. But anything that would pass through the asteroid belt that would make one of these things go out of orbit and start an alternative orbit would likely increase its speed.
Okay. Yeah, I've always wondered, or always, I've always pondered.
I've always pondered what would happen if rocks were.
But I thought about this one time. It was like, I mean, there's the speed limit in the universe is, equals mc squared, right? That's the theoretical speed limit of everything. Mm-hmm. But if you could get to let's say you got something moving at 0.9, the speed of light in space, and then you stopped applying energy to make it go faster, will it slow down? Shouldn't, right?
No, not unless it encounters some sort of a gravity well or gravity source or some mass of some kind.
So let's say an asteroid's out there whipping through the cosmos, doing its thing, and it's bouncing around between different gravitational poles and this, that, and it happens to boomerang around, let's say, a black hole. Mm-hmm. But boomerangs, right? Goes around it and picks up a shit ton of velocity riding around, gets shot out the other end at 0.9 the speed of light, and comes ripping across the cosmos, right? Mm-hmm. Do those exist?
Well, that might be a little fast for an asteroid. That might make it unstable.
Like it would come apart?
Yeah, before it would
So that's even worse, and ultimately turns into dust.
Yeah, it turns into dust and or energy. If it gets too close, it's just gonna disintegrate.
Okay, 0.75.
But still, yeah, there's definitely
0.5.
Yeah, there's definitely things moving at super fucking speed, or at least the highest tolerance of their material structure.
That are ripping around out here in the cosmos, right?
Yeah, there's whole planets that are moving, that are rogue planets that have gotten thrown out of their orbits for one reason or another and is moving at high speeds and stuff. I mean, everything's in motion and everything's moving at some kind of a speed, and some things are moving at the height of their ability to move before disintegrating or turning into energy.
Right.
It's just that the amount of that stuff compared to the vastness of space makes it negligible. You know?
Right, because there's just so much of it's empty.
Yeah.
But theoretically,
something can ruin your day at any moment. Yeah. On Earth or in space. I mean, honestly speaking, that's one of the things that they talk about when they talk about comets and the Oort cloud, and that being the real danger, because it can come from any direction, right? So you wouldn't be able to detect it, and if any time one of these things could hit the Earth. And it's not like normally they're in a stable orbit about 2 light years away, or that's the Oort cloud. But if anything disturbs those comets, they get jolted just enough to start being attracted by the sun's gravity and start heading in. And they usually do the long elliptical. They come in really fast and sling out, right? And they sling out the opposite way, more than likely past where the Oort cloud is to begin with. So whatever those things
and then
are,
they bang shit around in the Oort cloud, which
but
causes
to the opposite direction at least on the way out, right?
Okay.
But still, that stuff's flying through the universe, having been shot around from our sun.
It's like debris out there banging around.
Yeah, so you never know. And there's like microparticles that travel at super high velocities too. I've seen that in some science fiction movies that attempt to predict.
Well, those wouldn't. I mean, I bet there's got to be a point where the mass, or our atmosphere, loses the mass equation. Like if it's below X mass, it doesn't really fucking matter. I would imagine how fast it's going.
Not really.
It's not going to get to the Earth's surface.
Well, it's just not going to hurt other matter that it strikes into.
It's just going to burn up, poof, and turn into dust, and it's gone.
Yeah, and a lot of asteroids that come in, or meteors that come in,
that.
Yeah, they bust up in the lower atmosphere due to enormous temperature and pressure and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's what these ones that exploded over like Russia and stuff did. They came in superheated and then boom,
yeah, that's
and
what
then
they
exploded,
think happened.
right?
Yeah. But it could have hit the Earth, but didn't.
This was kind of one. This comes from Scientific American, but remember when we were talking to Gareth on the show here a couple weeks ago, and I was rambling on and on about.
I have a memory of that.
It's the world's largest nuclear fusion experiment clears milestone. The International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor is set to launch operation in 2025. A multi-nation project to build a fusion reactor cleared a milestone yesterday and is now 6.5 years away from first plasma, officials announced. China's already doing plasma in theirs. Yesterday, dignitaries attended a components handover ceremony at the construction site of the International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor in southern France. The ITER projects is an experiment aimed at reaching the next stage in the evolution of nuclear energy as a means of generating emission-free electricity. The section recently installed the cryostat base and lower cylinder paves the way for the installation of the tokamak, the technology design chosen to house the powerful magnetic field that will encase the ultra-hot plasma fusion core. Quote, manufactured by India, the ITER cryostat is 16,000 cubic meters. Officials said in a release, its diameter and height are both almost 30 meters, and its weight is 3,850 tons because of its bulk, and it's being fabricated in 4 main sections: the base, lower cylinder, upper cylinder, and top lid. The entire project is now 65% complete, the officials said. The date for first plasma is set. We will push the button in December of 2025, Griffin said, and it will take another 10 years until we reach full deuterium tritium operations. This is the problem with sitting around and waiting for this. Because a lot, and this is a very valid point, a lot of the stuff with fusion, although it's going to end up being the best thing because it's going to leave no hot material behind, okay, is how far away it is.
how many years away.
Yeah, it's too far away. It's 20 years away.
China's a little further ahead. And there's UK was doing something. So I mean,
yeah, but they're a little further ahead in getting the first test system running. Still, nobody is ready to start. Okay, well, we know everything about it now. Let's start manufacturing these and building them.
But it's coming.
It's definitely coming. Yeah, but the problem is it's too far away.
Yeah. Well,
Like something needs to happen in the interim, and there's a lot of science available that gets you away from the nasty shit. But anyway, we're heading nuclear. I mean, that's just the way it's going, right?
Ooh, I know what that picture is.
What is that?
That is a picture of the history of the universe from the Big Bang to galaxy formation in our current epoch of galactic history.
That's impressive.
It is impressive. It's a very neat picture.
It looks like a trippy space cone to me.
Well, that's the Big Bang on the left, and then that circle that's kind of green and blue right on the other side of it's the microwave radiation.
It could be
background.
like a galactic condom.
Maybe. Okay, and see past the see past the blue and red microwave radiation there.
Yeah,
like that space. That's inflation. That's Alan Guth. That's what I don't like. I don't like Alan Guth.
That's the reservoir tip.
And then suddenly things clear out and stars form and shine for the first time in the universe, which is all the shine right on the other side of the black. And then
I think we're still talking about the same thing.
Yeah. And then everything continues on until where we're at, like 14.5 billion years roughly or so.
This comes from Forbes. Quote, "We have already entered the sixth and final era of our universe."
That sounds very depressing to me.
Very doom and gloom, isn't it?
Yeah, probably going to talk about dark matter taking over and pushing everything away and everything becoming dark, maybe. I don't know.
Says, "The universe is not the same today as it was yesterday. With each moment that goes by, a number of subtle but important changes occur. Even if many of them are imperceptible on measurable on measurable human timescales, the universe is expanding, which means that the distances between the largest cosmic structures are increasing with time. A second ago, the universe was slightly smaller. A second from now, the universe will be slightly larger. But those subtle changes both build up over large cosmic timescales and affect more than just distances. As the universe expands,
like light.
Well, what do you mean like light?
As the universe expands, it affects light.
Oh, sure. Expands time, everything, doesn't it?
Yeah.
As the universe expands, the relative importance of radiation, matter, neutrinos, and dark energy will all change. The temperature of the universe changes, and what you'd see in the sky could change dramatically as well. All told, there are 6 different eras we can break the universe into, and we're already in the final one.
They've really simplified the universe here. We're breaking it down into 6 different areas.
Okay, the reason for this can be understood from the graph above. Okay, there's a graph. And it
circles and wiggly lines.
Circles and wiggly
squares.
lines. Yeah, it's sciencey shit, blah, blah, blah. Everything that exists in our universe has a certain amount of energy in it, matter, radiation, dark energy, etc. As the universe expands, the volumes of these forms of energy occupy changes, and each one will have its energy density evolve differently. In particular, if we define the observable horizon by the variable A, then matter will have its energy density evolve as 1 divided by A to the third, since for matter, density is just mass over volume, and mass can easily be converted to energy via E equals mc squared.
Yeah.
You got all that?
I do.
It's a fucking physics lesson tonight.
Yeah.
Lots of math, blah, blah, blah.
Pictures.
So basically they're saying, okay, so
there's your 6.
Yeah, your 6 eras would be inflationary era, which was number 1, primordial soup era, plasma era, dark ages era for the cosmos, not for the Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Stellar era, and then dark energy. You were right. Dark energy era. That's what they're calling it.
Yeah, because it's pushing everything apart, and it's basically entropy.
Well, that's what they're saying. Although nobody can still tell you what dark energy actually is.
Right. It's
kind of like gravity. We know it, but is that like gravity though? We know it exists because we can measure it. but
Yeah.
we don't know what causes
Exactly.
it or how to replicate it.
Precisely. We just feel we have a better understanding of gravity and it has a name, but we have no idea what this is. It was discovered, dark energy was discovered in about 1993.
Okay.
That was around the first time that they realized that not only were things expanding, but it was happening quicker and quicker. So prior to this, there had been this big question as to whether there's going to be so much mass in the universe that everything would be pulled back together like in another big bang where it would become like a singularity and explode again.
Right.
Or
like everything would recollect back together.
Because the gravity of everything in the universe would pull on itself and pull it back together. Or was there not so much mass in the universe that it was going to continue to expand because of the Big Bang from the beginning of that first explosion? But what they inevitably found out was not only is it going to continue to expand, but it's actually getting faster and faster. So they had no idea what was pushing it faster and faster because they attributed that things were moving away from each other from the Big Bang, right? And so for years, they were trying to decide, well, is it the kind of bang that's going to make everything go to shit? Or is it the kind of bang where it just kind of puffs up and then goes back down, right?
Right.
What they find out was that what is happening now really can't be explained by the Big Bang. There's no way that things should be speeding up.
Because like you said, all of a sudden, every law of physics was broken, and then it wasn't.
Well, at least all of their ideas of why things were doing what they were doing, they knew everything was moving away from everything else. They thought that the reason why that was because there was an explosion. So their natural instincts was to say that either it's going to continue at a steady rate, since there's nothing to stop this expansion, or it's going to pull back in on itself. But what they found out was that something else was pushing it even faster and faster and faster, and they didn't know what it was. So they said it's some kind of energy that's pushing and expanding space-time, but we don't know what to call it, so we're going to call it dark energy. And that's not so different than gravity, except they just have a name for gravity because they felt that they had a better idea, a better handle on gravity. It was discovered way, way, way long time ago and measured a long time ago, where this shit only was measured in 1993.
What it is it's a toroid.
The shape of the universe?
Yeah.
Like a donut?
And then once because it's a toroid, but when you get out to the outside edge of the toroid, you have to be moving so much faster. And then when you come back around for the rotation through the center of the toroid, you slow way down as you're going through that, and then you boomerang out. It's a toroid.
Well, that's one of the possibilities. There's also a saddle shape
I'm just
theory
making
of
shit
the
up
universe.
over here, man.
There's actually theories out there that suggest that the shape of the universe, like in this particular instance, they think it's mostly flat. But there are theories out there that talk about donut-shaped universes and saddle-shaped universes, where that curvature of space-time causes gravity to be a different constant at that point in space and different somewhere else. That's, I think, also known as the chameleon gravity theory, where in different parts of the universe, gravity would measure a different constant. Dude.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. Like we talked about that one time. But water's H2O is H2O anywhere in the cosmos, but not if the laws of physics change based on where you are in the universe.
Right, and also
that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. You know what I mean?
Also know what H2O is. We know that water is H2O, right? But we have no idea what composes gravity.
What gravity is.
So we don't even know.
So who the fuck knows?
Yeah,
right?
I mean, it could be that way. These are just all ideas.
Theories, speculation, right?
And it's backed up by math. It doesn't necessarily, you don't have to be smart to have the idea or understand it. It's just an idea of something. You know, it's nothing. It's nothing.
Somebody sat down, postulated, thought through, and said, "Well, you know what? It's just as probable as anything else."
And it may be backed by math.
And
yeah. I mean, if they can back it with math, it's a strong possibility or idea. So some ideas just get tossed out because the math doesn't work, right? So it's really unlikely the idea is going to work. But if the math lines up with it, with the idea,
right,
then maybe you have something. Because that's pretty much what Einstein was doing like like a thug, man. He was like throwing shit down and backing it up with math, and some of that stuff is still
like,
pretty strong,
boom,
man.
bitches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Like
that's
a
what they're
thug.
trying to do, man. They're trying to find stuff that, and obviously stuff that fits the observations that we see today.
Right.
And I think there's a conflict in that a lot of times, right? That's kind of what me and Gareth was talking about,
Yeah.
Where sometimes the math supports things so strongly and the idea seems so sound that idea leads to the observations that we see, but we really don't know.
Right.
and there could be other math and other ideas that work just as strong, and almost inevitably in science that happens. You just take things like black holes, for example. We don't exactly know what they are. Heck, we don't know what gravity is, and that's integral to what they are, right?
Yeah, like nobody's ever actually seen a black hole.
Well, they've recently took a picture.
Well, but we still never have seen the black hole. All we've seen is the effects that it has on.
Well, yeah, but
shit
you never
around
can
it,
really
right?
see the black hole.
That's what I mean.
But yeah, I mean, we've seen what we can see, but only recently. But
Yeah.
did you know that that it was Einstein and Rosenberg that came up with the equations that suggested that these things
existed to begin with?
Yeah,
right.
like it's not like anybody even had the idea
Maybe this
or
shit
thought
doesn't
of
exist,
them.
man. Maybe if just enough people believe it does, then the universe, the cosmos, just sort of burps it up.
No, I mean, I'm trying to point out why math is
I
important.
don't know why I said that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like math is important to these ideas because the whole idea of a singularity was brought about by math. It's not like somebody dreamed it up or had the idea or thought of it and then mathed it out. The math suggested that this existed in the world, so to speak, or the universe, and turns out it does. So that's why the math is so important to back up the idea. They have to be in tandem, or or just like in engineering.
Yeah, that's the difference. Well, is that maybe the difference between, say, a postulation and an actual theory?
Like a hypothesis and a theory. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, a hypothesis is just a fairly decent suggestion that matches the observation and isn't completely out of the realm of possibility. Right. A theory generally has some strong math to back up.
Something's been measured.
Yeah.
And quantified, right?
Yeah.
This one comes from IFL Science. Divers discover extraordinary treasures in Egypt's Atlantis.
Ooh.
Yeah. Well, this is something you're always kind of talking about, is that underwater archaeology is going to be the shit.
And satellite archaeology.
Yeah. Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities has announced a series of new finds unearthed, unwatered, during recent excavation work at the ruins of two underwater cities, Canopus and Heraklion. Heraclea? Heraklion. Both in the Gulf of Abukir near Alexandria. To summarize, there is gold, pottery, temples, and more gold. At Canopus, a team of underwater archaeologists led by Frank Godio discovered the remains of buildings which combined extend the overall size of the sunken city by a kilometer. The team also uncovered gold jewelry, gold coins from the Byzantine period.
Okay.
A collection of pottery and bronze coins from the Ptolemaic period. Ptolemaic. I'll take your word for it. That's 305 to 30 BCE. These artifacts, they say, suggest the city was inhabited between the 4th century BCE and the Islamic era, starting in the 7th century CE.
Yeah, so the Ptolemies were the people that Alexander the Great left in charge of Egypt. Cleopatra was related to General Ptolemy, who was put in charge by Alexander the Great. So she wasn't really a true Egyptian. She was Greek. And you can see this on coins today. Her father and her both had bumps on their nose that were real prominent in their family, and the gold coins, and well, not just gold coins, but coins that were struck in their image
of their likeness has that in there. Huh?
Yeah,
that's neat.
Yeah.
At Heraklion, I'm going with it.
Yeah.
Or Thonis, as it's known in Egyptian, the archaeologists found parts of Amun Garp, the city's main and now completely destroyed temple. There were also the remains of a smaller Greek temple, There you go.
Yep, that's why it's Heraklion, because that's a Greek word. That's why it's Thonis in Egyptian.
Pieces of storage, pottery, and tableware dating to the 3rd and 2nd century BCE. On top of that, there were bronze coins from King Ptolemy's the Second's reign, 285 to 246 BCE, and sections of columns from the same period.
Yeah, at that, hard to believe that even at that time, before the Common Era in 30 BC, that Egypt was being ruled by Greek people and not Egyptians.
That's a long time ago, man. I mean,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. It says until 2000, the existence of Thonis Heraklion.
Whatever you want to call it, whether
Yeah.
you're Greek or Egyptian. I know it's hyphenated.
Right.
Why didn't you just make it more complicated? They did.
It was only known because of its documentation in ancient classic texts, as well as the occasional mention of it in inscriptions found on land. According to Godio's site, it was the obligatory port of entry to Egypt from Greece until the founding of Alexandria, named after Alexander the Great, in 331 BCE.
Yeah.
Legend has it, as per the writing of Greek historian Herodotus, in the 5th century BCE, a great temple was built in the city where the Greek hero Heracles stepped foot in Egypt for the first time.
Heracles is Hercules. That's just the Greek name. Heracles is.
Oh, okay.
So they're talking about Hercules stepping foot in Egypt.
It was also supposedly visited by lovers Helen and Paris before the Trojan War broke out.
Yeah.
So this is so was this something that was before this is found is just speculated as being legendary and that these places never existed?
Well, they didn't necessarily say they didn't exist, but they didn't know where they were. I mean, much like Troy was speculated to exist, but nobody knew where it was until Schliemann found it. So somebody found this one. Somebody found the ancient city of Ubar, which was mentioned in the Quran, and they had no idea where it was. They, just like this city, they found writings referring to it. They knew that it was a very likely city that existed, because why wouldn't it if they're writing about it? They just didn't know where the hell it was. And that's because...
I mean, isn't that weird that you lose a fucking city? I guess this makes sense, though, because these got flooded. Obviously rapidly, because the structures were still intact.
And they only lost its location. They didn't lose its memory. They didn't lose its writings. They didn't lose its spirit. That's still down there. They just lost its location, and now they found it.
That's really interesting. And this shit's happening like all over the place, especially in the Middle East, but in Asia too, I think a lot.
This is going to be like that 7-year thing, man. I'm telling you, people are going to start catching on to it. They just found all this gold and shit, right? It's going to start, people are going to start getting funded if they've got the ability and the know-how to figure out where these things are likely to be and go out and find them. And just like Schliemann looked down Troy by hunting it down, these people are just doing the same thing, just in an aquatic way. They've got that extra know-how of the aquatic environment, and they're able to utilize that, and they're finding stuff. And not only are they finding stuff, but they're finding pristine stuff that's not been above water for tomb robbers to get into and
bust
take
it apart so they can sell it in pieces and all this kind of shit. So a lot of context will be put back together from this stuff, huh?
Yes, and the infrastructure has not been rotted and corrupted. You know, there's a whole black market on antiquities, so you got to worry about who's on the job site, your diggers, your people, whoever, that even an intern student isn't going to pocket something and sell it for $500 on the black market or whatever. So you got to worry about shit leaking out like that, right? These guys are finding this shit, and they're the only ones connected to it, whatever their small team is or whatever that has this knowledge and this ability. They're finding pristine environments with gold. When they found all that gold in King Tut's tomb, and that's so rare to do anymore, it changed everything.
Yeah, all of a sudden the excitement, man, the gold fever.
Or when they found the Agamemnon's mask and stuff, like all that stuff. Like, this is going to be like that. They're going to have success, and people will put more money into it.
Only it's going to be so much bigger than anything we've probably ever seen.
It'll tell us a lot more historical facts than we've had access to
I
for
tell you
the
what-
very reason that it's pristine, that it's not leaking out, that people aren't messing with it. The infrastructure is so small,
Right.
You can, can.
I think that it's going to happen in South America. I think
Oh, sure.
I think someone is about to put a shovel in
To those
some temple
Mayan-
somewhere down there.
Yeah, that they
and is
found
about
with LiDAR.
is about to open up the gold find of all gold, historical gold finds, because those people were wiped out by like
The Mayans, though,
germs. They just died in place. So some of this shit's still going to be setting there.
yeah, like hopefully language artifacts and stuff. But the
Absolutely.
Mayans
Yeah.
threw a lot of their gold and shit down into caves, especially if they were filled with water.
Yeah.
So most of the gold that's been found for the Mayan archaeological digs has been found in the bottom of water-filled caves.
Yeah. But they built those cities on top of those. So if you find the cities, you find those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there
Yeah.
it is, and they haven't been. If no one's been there in 200 or 300, 400, whatever years,
Good time
was
to be an
Cortez
archaeologist.
in Spain and all that. When did that happen?
That was around, I believe, of the 11 something. But you probably should fact check that.
There's a really great John Leguizamo is a comedian,
Mm-hmm.
and he's been in like movies, like a lot of movies. But anyway, he has a documentary on I can't remember what it's called. It's like like Spanish for Dummies or something. It's really good. But he goes through like the history of South America, and it's fast. I had no idea that until I saw that how much that country was infected. And how much germs and stuff that were brought by the Europeans and the other people that they weren't exposed to, and it just like fucking decimated those people.
Yeah,
like 9 out of 10. I don't know what it was. It was some ridiculous number
terrible,
of people
man.
died. Holy cow! I saw this one the other day, and this is more in keeping with the tradition of the No Shit Cast. We went real technical right up front tonight, man. We usually don't do that. It's kind of new. So this is from Futurism. Millennial farmers make more money on YouTube than from farming.
Then why are they calling them farmers?
Well, they still have farms.
Yeah, but
I've seen
that's
these
not
guys.
their main source of income.
they make YouTube videos and stuff and record themselves out in the tractors.
Like
and
farming?
stuff. Yeah, for real.
Well, I will say that I have often lamented that our generation and younger have lost the ability in general to make gardens and farm. I'm not saying everybody doesn't know how, but
Right.
a lot of people don't, when our parents and our grandparents for sure did. So my point being is that maybe this is something interesting for people to watch because they don't see it anymore. They don't know what's going on. It's like mysterious.
A number of millennial farmers in the U.S. are making more money talking about farming on their YouTube channels than from farming itself.
They do have farming simulation games and
I
stuff.
know they do, right? But they don't grow. You can't eat simulated food. That's the problem.
No.
Farmer Zach Johnson, owner of the YouTube channel Minnesota Millennial Farmer, told Bloomberg that he and his wife made 5 times more on YouTube in 2018 than from his family farm. Johnson also sells merch on the side, speaks at public events, and features endorsed products in his videos. Quote, "Yes, we use GMOs, we use pesticides, drain tiles, and irrigation, and there are real reasons why we use those things," Johnson told Bloomberg. A lot of his videos are in response to criticism that modern farming practices often face. According to the University of Illinois Farm Doc Project, an initiative that provides local farmers with marketing and management know-how, more and more farmers are reshaping themselves as content creators. Holy shit, man. Farming organizations and commodity groups have encouraged producers to be part of the conversation on social media. Keith Good, Farm Doc's social media manager, told Bloomberg, and there's an audience for the videos. Some American farmers are racking up hundreds of thousands of subscribers.
That's just awesome. I love it. I think that's great.
What does that mean, man?
I don't know what it means, but I think
fucking-
it's awesome.
Oh,
I love the integration.
yeah, in a way, I'm kind of, because technology is definitely changing the way we farm.
yeah.
Um,
And it's nice that they're embracing it. It gives that Star Trek feel. Like when you watch Star Trek, you see them out there doing normal Earth stuff like farming or whatever, growing corn, but it's like Star Trek. That's what it's like. It's like they're in the future, but they're still farmers. It's awesome.
I've seen this thing popping up on Facebook a lot. A farmer has some sort of system he tows, and it like blows flames down onto the field.
Wait, what?
It's a thing they
Oh,
tell.
yeah, I know what you're talking
It's
about.
like a flamethrower,
Yeah.
but it shoots down onto the ground.
And it kills all the microbes in a
Yeah.
like 4-inch thing. It kills
Yeah.
them all, so that they can come through and then fertilize it and grow crops better. Yeah.
And it cuts down on the pesticide use and all this other kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I thought, wow.
Yeah, it kills those microbes, man.
Looks neat as shit.
It does. Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it once on a video or something. It was a great idea too,
This one comes from I don't know this source, the Vintage News.
Now I sent this one.
Oh, this is an Eric Smith edition.
I just seen
right.
it and I thought it was kind of neat, and we didn't necessarily need to talk about it, but we can because it's kind of neat.
Well, let's throw it in here real quick, man. We've been over an hour here, so a U.S. satellite abandoned in 1967 began sending eerie transmissions again in 2013.
It's a long article, so you may not want to read it all, but it's really long, I thought.
You want to just give us the gist of it?
Not necessarily.
Well, basically, it's telling us some satellite out there is starting to send signals that.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even read it all, but what I did read was that it had been lost all that time, and it started transmitting again, and then they think it's flipping over and over because the transmission, what's eerie about it, is it's like stuttered,
It says, in the case of the LES-1 satellite, however, the waters are still murky as to the cause of its demise and resurrection.
Yeah, they think that the battery got old and that it's leaking energy and it's traveling along its superstructure or some such shit, empowering its core computer and allowing it to transmit. That's the best that they could come up with. It's something really weird like that. I was reading it earlier. I only read it quick because I was at work. And I'm like, the weirdest thing about it was how it ended up gaining energy after decades, right? And just starts transmitting again. And it's like, fuck, what's happening?
What is going on, right?
Yeah, but they talk about it somewhere at the beginning.
So unlikely was its self-recommissioning that NASA was hesitant to believe it. From the moment of Williams' discovery, it would be 3 long years before NASA was able to conclusively confirm suspicions.
Yep, that's it.
That the mystery signal was emanating from the nearly 50-year-old LES-1 satellite.
What did they say?
Haunted Ghost in the Machine type shit going on up there,
man.
huh?
Yeah, something's happening up there. Well, I forget what it says at the beginning, what they originally sent it out there for, but I can't remember now what it was. Some kind of test or something for communications, maybe?
Yeah. They don't know how it continues to operate. The propulsion system of the abandoned satellite, built by MIT's Lincoln Lab and launched in February 1965, failed upon its launch, and the craft was thought lost forever when it ceased to transmit in 1967.
It's like it never really worked to begin with.
Yeah, so this thing's just been out there like adrift as a giant failure.
And then started working.
After initially failing to reach its projected orbit, the satellite stopped communicating with its base for 46 long years before Williams' discovery in 2013 of its abrupt and for some alarming revival. Yeah, I see what you're saying. They think that the battery's demise is somehow allowing power to be directly passed from the solar panels to the computer.
They're just blaming the battery. It's like, it must be the battery, man. Like, that's the first thing that's probably going to go wrong on most things out in space, in the cold of space. I mean, I don't know what kind of battery they had in 72.
This poor thing. This poor lost little satellite out there finally wakes up and starts trying to do its job, and everyone's like, kill it with fire, kill it with fire.
Yeah, I just thought that was weird, man.
We got a 100th episode coming up here soon, man. Like next. And we still have yet to decide what or if we're going to fucking do anything special for that episode.
But
we keep talking about it like we're going to, but
we're probably not.
It's probably just going to be another episode.
Like I said, though, if we're here for there goes my cup. If we're here for 100 episodes, that's the accomplishment. If we're doing that episode, that's the accomplishment, at least at the very base minimum.
I think so. I think it in and of itself is fine. Like, I don't know if we need dancing girls, but they're fun to look at.
Yeah.
Just putting that out there.
Yeah. Dancing is very ephemeral.
You got anything else, man?
I probably do. I don't know.
Do you want to talk about anything?
I don't know. See, you probably should have hit me up at the beginning. I probably had more at the beginning.
I did.
I know.
Yeah.
I refused.
My son's waiting on me too, so
Oh yeah, we better wrap this up. You got like people to kill.
yeah, I gotta go shoot people in the face in the world of Overwatch.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Check us out at www.noshitcast.com. That's KNOWSHITCAST.com. Make sure you hit those like and subscribe buttons. Leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Give us a rating on iTunes, etc. And we love it when you share us. We love to be shared. We're shareable type people. It's just a thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's how we feel. So give us a share. We'd really appreciate it. We'll catch you all next time. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye. Sickles.